3, 2, 1.
Hi, my name's Mills. I'm the host of this year's Bizlinx Gold event. I'm really excited. We've got some amazing speakers on this episode today. But more importantly, if you're someone that's looking for a well-spoken, well-presented kind of person, I'm probably not it. But the main thing is that you guys realise there's realism, there is going to be inspirational stories, and more importantly, if we can help make a difference to our viewers and our audience, that is what we would like to do. Let's start off with meeting our speakers. Naz, a bit about yourself and your background.
Hi, so my name is Nazia. Like Mel said, I am a qualified hypnotherapist, but prior to that I have extensive work in the development field, and now I'm focusing on mental health and well-being, so I deliver that in corporate events and to private clients.
Naz, can I just ask you a quick question? You've gone into this profession that you're in. What made you choose that?
So it was actually inspired by my own journey. So when I experienced some trauma myself, I went through counselling, and that really helped and supported me. So I started doing some small workshops to see if I could help others around me. And when I saw the impact of this, I started looking more into counselling and psychotherapy, and then found hypnotherapy by accident on that journey actually. And it was something that was a bit mystified to me at the time, until I started studying it, understanding how the brain works and the real life impact. So in my journey, I just really wanted to help people. I guess that's what inspired me.
That's amazing. And I think we're going to touch base on a few things that you've said. Moving over to Maite. Hi.
Hello, my name is Maite. I am a graphic designer by trade. Grown up in Venezuela from an Italian family. I then moved back to Italy, went to live into China, and now I've been in the UK for the past 10 years. I am a brand manager for a local charity, Nova New Opportunities, and I also offer virtual assistant services to individuals and businesses. And I am a passionate advocate for accessibility and neurodivergence.
And I want you to elaborate on that. Why are you passionate about that?
Equity.
Okay.
It's the fact that I want for everyone to have the same experience, no matter where they come from or who they are or their body, what they look like. Everyone should have the same experience in this world, in this life, regardless.
And I think it's brilliant that you say that, because it comes on to my next bit. You're very open about your diagnosis of ADHD. Do you find that that's, at one point in your life, was that like, no, this is going to block me from doing what I want to do? Or was it more like, no, do you know what, I'm going to take this and I'm going to just roll with it like it's nothing? Or how is that? How have you managed that?
Well, that's a funny question, or at least it is for me, because my ADHD diagnosis is actually quite recent. It came up about 4 or 5 months ago, and it was on a period of intense stress, and I noticed that I couldn't focus. And yes, I know that my brain goes from one thing to the other. It's something that I've learned about ADHD, that I didn't see myself in it, but it's the fact that your brain is able to think about 10 different things at the same time, but not that I couldn't focus for more than 2 seconds on one thing. And that's what made me wait. Is this ADHD? And I went for a diagnosis. So what this has made me realize now is that this is my strength. The fact that I can think of all these different things. So no, it's not a hinder, although some people might take it like that. And in the past, I've seen my lack of focus or thinking of way too many things as a problem, something that I needed to tame, to address, or I'm not good enough at narrowing down or finishing something. Now is, okay, how can I take this and amplify it?
Right.
So
Yeah. So it's literally taking it on board. And again, we're going to come back to a few of the stuff that you've mentioned. And Seema, if you can kind of introduce yourself as well.
Thank you. My name is Seema. I'm a
a qualified psychotherapist, and I have spent 20 years working within local government housing teams. That's what gave me the platform to work a little bit more closely with domestic violence and mental health. And through sort of, you know, the 20 years of work that I've done, I've had the opportunity to sit in high-level domestic abuse, high-risk domestic abuse panels. I've sat on Ministry of Justice panels where perpetrators are coming out. And I think for me, the natural progression from working sort of within housing and working with very vulnerable clients was to move into an area where I could make more of a difference, which is why I now also train local government on how to actually respond to domestic abuse in the correct way, in the correct legal format, but also from a kind of humanitarian and compassionate way as well, which is often missing in sort of large institutions. And my future hope is that I will be able to sort of roll out thinking around domestic abuse, mental health, and all of those things in sort of more corporate environments. Because let's face it, you know, we all have some kind of relationship with either mental well-being, or we know somebody who might have experienced domestic abuse, and actually that can really kind of cause some complications in how we present ourselves to the world. So actually, I think it's really, really important that we make sort of mental well-being, domestic abuse, and all of these social issues actually everyone's business.
Yeah, and I think coming to that as well, you've, as you said, 2 decades you've been in this. My thing is that something I'm frustrated with, in some way, shape or form, is the system. So how in your experience has the system either succeeded for someone, and on the other side when it hasn't, how have you been able to then kind of support those individuals that are going through what they're going through, a system that you are probably one of thousands in it? So sometimes we can get to the point where we're thinking, okay, you know what, I'm not making a difference, and this is, the authority isn't with me. You've got to go through 5-6 different people in order to get one answer, but then you've got the individual in front of you that's already going through this stuff. So how would you kind of advise, what is the best way if the system isn't on your side?
I think this is the problem with institutions and systems, is that they will have some very set ideas in terms of how they are expected to work. Local authorities, for example, are expected to work within legal boundaries and policies and all of those things. And actually, if we are to apply such a sort of blanket policy to everyone, there are lots of communities and lots of individuals who will not get the help, and that I think is perhaps what you're talking about with the disadvantage of systems. For example, marginalised communities will experience mental health and domestic abuse differently, and by that I'm talking about, you know, Black and Asian communities. I'm talking about sort of people from the LGBT community, for example. There is a lot of truth in the idea that some of these marginalised communities will experience domestic abuse either for longer, to a harsher degree, and even the help that they get from the systems may well not necessarily be geared to the cultural nuances that they come from. So actually the important thing is, rather than, it's a little bit of what Moto was saying, is let's think with equity rather than equality, because equality is important, but what is really important is that we actually treat every individual from an equitable point of view, to ensure that every individual that we see coming through the system is getting the safeguarding and help that they need. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about doing the training that I do and rolling out the same kind of thinking in the therapeutic world as well.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, pairing with something that Nazi was saying as well. So for me, I remember hypnotherapy. When I was going through some trauma, I remember hypnotherapy wasn't even something that was on the table at the time. So for me, it was almost like, well, what is this? And instantly I would just think, well, I need help. Do they put me to sleep? In all honesty, that was the first thing. And what about if I share something in this that I should not be sharing while I'm asleep? Is the first thing I thought of. And so I think there's a lot of noise around hypnotherapy. What is it? Is it good? You know, in this day and age, is it something where are we tapping into someone's mind, and is someone going to share something they don't want to share? So kind of, what's your insight into that? And also looking at that, when you've got victims of domestic abuse, is it something that you feel that would kind of help them as well? Is it something you would advise? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so definitely I think it would help It's widely used now in terms of trauma. So in a version of it, it's EMDR therapy. So it is currently used within trauma counselling, and the one thing you don't want to do to someone who has trauma is make them relive it. So in terms of hypnotherapy, it allows you to do so, but separate, so you're not reliving the emotions, almost like you're watching it on a screen. And in terms of like demystifying the process, because the first thing everyone said to me is, are you going to make me like bark like a dog or something? And it's like, you know, we've watched movies growing up, and that's the thing that comes up. And I was really shocked because the first time I experienced it in like a learning environment, you don't actually talk in hypnotherapy. The client doesn't talk. You listen and you absorb. It's kind of like an extended meditation. So it's like a guided meditation. You follow along. And I think some people like a little bit more familiar, like it was on the Bizlinx, for example. Things like that. And it's like you follow along, you do a deep rest, deep breathing meditation. And it gets you into a state of like the beta waves of your brain. And that's where you're susceptible to suggestions. Now, that's where trust comes in. So like the suggestions you'd be talking about would be, you know, if it's stress or anxiety related, which is what like I specialize in, it will be things like addressing the things that are stressing you out, you know, like when you experience this, you're going to feel calm and collected, you're going to remember that you have the answers, you're able to. So one of the ways I used this in the beginning where I was learning was somebody helped me do this prior to an interview.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, when you hold your wrist and breathe, you're going to feel calm and collected, and then it works. So then I delivered this for someone who's afraid of flying. So we went back to the traumatic event, but it was like, okay, you're sat in a movie theater and you're watching it unfold. So you have enough detachment to witness the trauma without having to experience it. And
that is fascinating, isn't it? You don't really, no one's actually, to me, or has explained it in that in depth. Like literally, it's like you said, the bark like a dog is pretty much what I thought. I was like, I'm not going to anybody that can get into my mind and I'm sleeping, because it was just probably filled with like Star Wars stuff, or like that I want a donut, or I didn't have a donut, or something like that. So you worry a lot about things like that. And I think that it's, all these tools are out there, but I think a lot of our viewers, our audience, aren't aware, and it kind of comes to the next, everything that you guys experiencing is all done out of choice. You've gone into these professions out of choice, and I think the most important thing when you've gone into something, you've got to have a love for it, right? Otherwise, why would we go into something that we don't have a love for? And for something as big as mental health, that if you mix it in with, say, and this is going to be one of our topics for the future, but menopause is something that's a very big topic, because that affects then how we kind of process things. I'm going through a stage of premenopause, and I'm just like, I'm just like, I'm on menopause, but we actually don't understand the core of what that is. But I think listening to all your kind of inspirational stories, it kind of brings me to one thing, and that one thing is that if you are a viewer at home and you are sitting there and you are watching us inspirational women, all out of choice, we're not billionaires or anything like that, we are the public, how there is a person that's sitting there that's thinking, oh, get lost, I'm not going to do that. How do we get rid of that get lost part? So how do we have that? How do we, as a team of inspirational people, how can we help those that go through mental health at a point that are on their own? Because let's face it, actually, in all honesty, even in mental health, you could be around people, but you could still be alone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a very common thing. So, and I've gone through trauma, and I have worked on myself for many years, but I have someone else that's gone through the same trauma as me and hasn't worked out in the same way. So it's very easy for me to be like, actually, you should just move on from it. Or what? Just do this. Or watch something on TV. Or watch, but that's not constructive back. So I think, being inspirational as you are, how would, and either one of you can go first, how would you kind of think, what is the best way for viewers that are just on their own watching this, at a very low point, in their lives, that are looking and thinking, oh, you know what, these guys they're all right, they can speak because they're all like, inspirational and that, but right now I feel worthless because I've just seen them watch how inspirational they are and they've not had anything. How can we, what would your insight be, how could we make a change to that?
I think since you
My neck is great this way, that's what it is, yeah.
I think it really depends where you're at in your journey, because at some point you might be in your journey where getting up to shower is a lot. So in that stage, then I recommend start with the basics, get a routine going. I think routine is really important to mental health. But if you're at a stage where you're functional, you're going to work, you're doing everything, but you want to work on yourself, or you're going through something like this, is to seek help. There is help there, and to be open and vulnerable, because yes, it is hard, but then you do get the support. And I think sometimes the taboo or the shame, like when I did work around mental health and BAME cultures, like you were saying, there is a taboo, there is a cultural norm around it that signifies something, like I need help. There's this level of shame around it, and I think it's overcoming that and understanding that actually I don't need to live in this pain, and there is help and support, and you can seek it, and it is available, and that's okay. That would be the main message I want people to understand.
Amazing. Guys, anything you want to...
Well, the first thing that I feel like saying is that if I look back, even 2-3 years ago, I wouldn't think that I would be here sitting talking to you about this. I was in a very different place. 5 years ago, 2-3 years ago, I was a different me. And maybe back then, what I thought of myself is like, oh, I cannot make that happen. I cannot achieve this. And again, ADHD plays a part, which now I know, but I didn't. So something that helped me a lot is I started writing. And that wasn't easy for me. I tried several times. I've always wanted to do it, but I was never able to get through. But I started doing the Artist Way from Julia Cameron, and one of the exercises is writing 3 pages every day. And somehow sticking to it and making it through a year, it made me acknowledge to myself, I can do things. I can go through something. So what Nasia said about getting a routine, look, it can be anything. It can be very small things. And the small things, they do add up. And just stick to whatever that is. Pick one thing. It doesn't have to be 5 or 10 things. We are not going to change our lives overnight. One little thing. And then you build up on that. And believe me when I say that writing every day, and you know what, I went from 3 pages to 1 page on a small notebook, but that page a day, it flicked a switch in my brain and told me I can do things when I want to. And it's powerful.
So it's almost like if you imagine our brain is like a computer, let's be honest, it's almost like you're in control of the flick switch that goes off in there to say, you know what, I'm able, and it's the same, like Seema, you have, I don't even know how many endless cases that you've had, and it can be even in your field, even though for someone outside, it can be repetitive, but it isn't repetitive. Each person is different. So how does that I'm just saying, if there is someone watching now and they're going through a form of domestic abuse, but they actually don't even know that they are going through it, what would you say would be kind of a way to, first step, because it's like Maite said, you can't just, all right, the next day I'm all over it now, it's all done. It doesn't work like that, right? So I think, how would you be able to turn around and say, you know what, these are the signs, or this is the first step is evaluate. How would you get an individual that's going through something to evaluate themselves?
And that's a really valid question, actually, and I think I've had a lot of experience of this as a therapist and as a first responder to domestic abuse in local authorities. But I think when you're responding to somebody who already acknowledges the abuse is there, it's a different ballgame. But for those people who you're specifically referring to that are experiencing domestic abuse and don't quite understand that that's what's going on, my advice to you would really be to try and get in touch with how certain things are making you feel.
Okay.
And I've had this with clients of mine where, as a therapist, I can't specifically tell them that I think you're going through domestic abuse. That's outside of my ethics. However, what I can do is help them really get in touch with their feelings. So when they're narrating their story of what they've been through either last night or 10 years ago, whatever it was, it's really a case of me kind of bringing the awareness into, well, what did that feel like?
Yeah.
How did that feel for you? And what do you, even if it was a trauma that was going for them in their childhood, what did the younger version of you feel? What do you envisage that the younger version of you might have felt? And actually, if we can get people more in touch with their feelings, then that will actually enable us to be able to work with that. And the thing about, the domestic abuse, unfortunately, does add psychological injury and causes some damage to people's mental well-being. We know that, that's research proven. But the other thing that does happen, regardless of whether or not domestic abuse is there or not, when somebody's well-being is impacted, that voice, the imposter syndrome voice, is louder and clearer and more chaotic. And actually, there are times when actually what we really need to do is kind of ground ourselves and shut out that noise, but also in doing so accepting that every single one of us here today has come into this because perhaps we've got a wounded healer within us that has experienced trauma of some sort, and actually accepting that we're all flawed, and actually we can work with those flaws rather than allowing those flaws to victimize us. We can actually turn pain into power. But in order to do that, we really do need to kind of shut out the noises of imposter syndrome.
And I think, when you said that flaws, I was just like, there's no flaws in me at all. But anyway, it's got a bit carried away there. Yeah, no. But I think you're right. And I think for one thing, my biggest focus has always been, we have trauma. It is there. It's something we can't get rid of, but we can minimize it. It's with anything. Because if we look at any of our past, any of the people, if you think about, we are people that is affected by people. I always believe, this is just my opinion, but I always believe the hardest drug in the world is another human. It can make you and it can break you at the same time. So I think for me, it's always been important to look at surroundings, how we are, who the people we're around, and I think that I'm very, very blessed. Because I do have an amazing best friend who basically, instead of derailing me, actually encourages me. And I've not always had that throughout my life. And even if I come around tomorrow and say, do you know what, I want to do this, and deep down she knows that I'm not going to last 10 minutes, but she'll be like, you do it because it will be great. And maybe the next day I'll be like, all right, I don't want to do this actually today. But the fact is, I've noticed in this day, and I've got people that I've got, whether it be family members or people I work with at my work placement. And the topic for a different day is looking at how people at their jobs are affected, because that's something that's affected very much so. But how do we, in that respect, look at that and be like, right, do you know what, I'm going to my 9 to 5, and there are people there that quite happily have a problem, and how do we keep going? And I think that the reason I have you guys as the first kind of speakers is because whether in our paths we've crossed, but there's never been a negative moment. And we've all gone through some form of trauma and negativity in our lives. And I think that is what some people really, really struggle with. And they might find they might have the best partner, as in a relationship partner, husband, wife, whatever it may be. But I always don't believe that they need to be your person. And there has to be an element where you can come out of, you are you. You are not the person that's referred to by someone else. You are still you. So when you become that person that's referred to you, where do you kind of go? And some common questions that did come up from some of the audience that knew that you guys were going to be speaking today, a couple of them were very much incited by, how do we be inspired? And it's hard for me because I don't know how to answer that, because I feel like I'm inspired every day. But then when I look back, I'm thinking, I don't think that was inspiration. Maybe that was just a moment that I felt hungry. And I was like, right, I'm inspired. I think I come up with a new idea to my best friend every day. We should open a donut shop. We should open this shop. We should open that shop. But deep down, I'm realizing they're all things that I like. But desperately going deep down. How do we get inspired? How do we wake up? It's like you said, people struggle waking up. I can never imagine that. I struggle from waking up because I've been out on the night before, not because my mental health is telling me. So how can one, just that one bit, like you said, how do we help those, that one bit to say to them, do you know what? You've got this. It's okay.
Well, if I can, I'd add to what Maita and Seema said.
Yeah.
So I think the neuroscience behind it tells us that it is environment, like you said.
Yeah.
And it is proving to yourself, like the evidence is what's gonna. Yeah. So if you think you can't do something, pick something small. Start with a very small routine and have that self-awareness. This is what Seema was discussing. Like, take a frank look at your life and be like, okay, I have a 9 to 5, I don't like it, it pays the bills. It's okay for your job not to be the most inspirational thing in your life, so long as it pays for you to be able to, like, it supports you in being able to do the things that you want to do, you know? I think we've come up into a society where we expect everything from one place. Mm-hmm. And it's like you said, it takes a village. Your partner may provide one thing, your work provides something else, your passion, your hobby provides something else. So find the thing that you would do even if no one paid you. Find the thing that you would do even if you had to stay up, even if you had to power through something. That's the thing that you'd be like, actually, I would still do that. For free, come rain or shine, I would still do that. And you might not find it straight away. I listened to a podcast once that was like, try different things until you find the thing. Yeah. So just put yourself out there.
And what would you say, well, actually, this is going to be to all of you, so you might want to guess, think of your answer. What is your thing? What makes Nadia get up in the morning?
As cheesy as it is.
No. Please, go for it.
I think it is feeling like I've made a difference. So everywhere I've worked, everything I do, like in general, where I feel like I have a purpose is where I genuinely feel like I help someone. Whereas even if it is like tech support, I've helped you get back onto your day. Yeah. I feel like I've made a difference to your day. If it's with a client in hypnotherapy or psychotherapy and counseling, I feel like I've helped you a little bit today, just even by listening and being there. So that's the thing I would do even for free. Like I would help people and I do, like I volunteer.
That's amazing. Yeah, you do. And I think that's something. That's really nice, man. Like, that touched me. Nice, that did. And then I say,
she's on my answer. I thought about this and I've gone into this question for myself from different angles. And yes, I like to help people. I believe that my purpose in life is to learn to be the best human being that I can be. And I do that by helping others. And I follow Daniel Pink on Instagram. He has amazing posts. And I answered to one of his questions and I help people nail the simple things that can be difficult because they can. Because I've been through that. And I want to help others through that ladder because sometimes it can feel like a ladder. And I try to do that in the many interests and the many things that I do in my life. It's like I have like 4 different jobs, and in each of them, the purpose is helping others in whatever shape or form. I know that whatever I do, whether that's designing a logo or solving a technical issue, I am helping someone going forward.
And it is like you are a woman of many talents. You've many jobs, but actually you're right. When you've just said it to me, it's very true that each one of the fields that you're in, it is helping someone. And it is, I've seen you at work, I've seen how you are with, and it is that element that you have is the biggest thing that I think we all have is patience. Because if we didn't have patience, I don't think we would be the people we are today. And go on.
No, I'll tell you, and it's not only patience, it's because we've been in the journeys that we've been and in our experiences, we've also nurtured compassion, which is not something that I believe everyone is born with. It's cultivated and it's in your environment. And if you don't come from an environment that cultivates compassion and empathy, you're not going to have it.
Yeah.
So through my day, I try to, to have the curiosity about the person that is in front of me and their own experience, and take the prejudice.
Yeah.
And then be compassionate.
Be compassionate. Seema?
I think these two ladies have stolen my answers too. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach and tell you a little bit of a story. So, during COVID, I spoke to many sort of women and men who were experiencing domestic abuse, and people's mental health did suffer as a result of it as well. And then after we came out of COVID, I was at this social event, and this woman came up to me and she said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, you spoke to me on the phone, and you saved my life. You told me what my options were when it came to the experiences that I was having, and you held space for me to talk about what I was going through without judging me and without making me feel like I was going insane." And when I heard that, I realized that this is the reason, this is my drive, this is why I wake up every morning, that if I can make a difference to just one person, then it makes my existence worthwhile.
Yeah, and it's, and I can probably say this, it's a bit like, I always think that we are all in a profession that's a bit like a doctor's surgery. No one goes in to make an appointment to say they're feeling great, are they? True. No, but it's true, right? Do we actually go to the doctor and be like, "Hi, could I have an appointment? I just wanted to tell you that I feel great. Okay, see you later." We don't. We're going in there for what reason? It is to complain, or it is that we've got a problem. And I think I know there's quite a bit a stigma that your happiness shouldn't be connected to someone else because that's not the right way, or this and that. I partially do disagree, because I think what makes me happy and what makes me get up in the morning is my best friend, and it's just purely because how they make me feel, how I feel, how when I'm going through something, I know that I can manage on my own. Why do I need to? If I have someone like that that's able to support me and help me, that's a rarity in life, then that is my reason. And then you've got the people around you as well, whether it be my auntie that I stay with, how she is, I always have this joke, and I know you guys all know as well, like when I have this joke about, I'm 40 and she cooks for me. Yeah, I know, right? And I know people are thinking I was spoiled, and maybe I am partly spoiled, but at the end of the day, I also think it's, that I also am there for her. And I have to say this, at one point in my life, and this is something I never really admitted to anybody, and I'm saying it on camera, but the one turning point in my life was, I remember I was a carer for my mum who had Alzheimer's, and she passed away. And this whole time, in the 10 years that I was looking after her, I was like, I'm everybody with arms, you're there for your mum, you look after her, you do this, you do that. And I remember the element of when she passed away, and I was in front, and we have our cultural kind of funerals and stuff. And at that point, a switch, as you can say, flipped in me, and I realised, and I was like, oh my God, like it's just hit me. I was like, actually, I wasn't there for her, she was there for me. And at that point was the change of my life, I think. And when I look back, this 10 years from now, when I look back and I think to myself, I had people in my family and my friends that thought, oh, that's it now, Mills is gone off track, this is it, like, her mum's not here and her mum's like her life and this, that. But it didn't happen. I went and turned it all around, because I was like, my mum wouldn't want me to live a life like that. And I think at that element, when you've got the mental capacity to identify what is right from wrong, I think for an individual, I think that is your breaking point in how we think forward. And life is like that. As we've said, we've all gone through some form of trauma. But in all honesty, Seema, how many people come to you and say, thank you so much? Then how many people probably come to you and say, oh, well, it didn't help? Or how many people even take your advice? That must be the biggest thing, is how many people actually take your advice.
Absolutely. And I can't force anyone to do anything,
No.
whether as a therapist or whether as a professional in domestic abuse. Ultimately, they need to find the power within themselves to act. And, I can give them, with good faith, the best advice, hold a space for them, talk them through what they're going through, validate their experiences. But it ultimately has the power to kind of act and take the steps that they need to do to look after themselves, has to come from within them. And also sort of touching on what you said earlier, that, you know, this whole cliche idea that happiness is an inside job and we mustn't rely on other people to make us happy. Well, the reality is we are relational.
Yeah.
We are all relational, and we will, unfortunately, you know, have a sort of good and bad elements in our life from the people that we are around, whether they are our family, they're our teachers, you know, anyone that has made us feel good will also be the same person that empowers us. Equally, even someone who isn't necessarily a good influence on us and is our kind of bad element will teach us right from wrong. So actually those elements are important. So rather than sort of thinking of, you know, happiness is an inside job and, you know, we need to kind of take responsibility for that ourselves, what we need to do is pull together and take responsibility for each other.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Honestly, I could sit here for hours speaking on this topic. I believe if we've got some time, is anybody in our audience got any questions or would like to share some insights or something that they've gone through that they might find inspirational to share? If you don't, there's no pressure. No pressure at all.
Well, I want to start off with saying that your what you've just been speaking about is amazing and it's quite insightful. I think personally, I probably have been through my own trauma because my dad passed away when I was in probably my teens. So the struggle has been hard. So it's nice to see so many people come together, work really hard together and inspire each other. I think that's really important.
Audience, this is Bao. So Bao is someone I met many years ago who changes people's lives daily. She's a solicitor. She's also got her own law firm. So actually people coming to you, Bao, on a regular is given. And some people aren't happy with the decisions you give or not even decisions you give. Sometimes you're in a very 50-50 position.
Absolutely.
You know, and you can make someone's life or you can break someone's life. And that's not your doing. So I think that, you know, just touching on what you said, it's we've all gone through some shape or form. And I think moving forward, what we need to kind of advise our circles, our people, and even share with our audience is good things. There may be, there may be like comments and stuff that may come after, you know, in these videos that happen. And another big thing, which will be my next topic, is social media. And I think just before we go, I just want to ask two quick questions before we go. First of all, just out of curiosity, do you think social media should be 21 and above?
That's a very good
To everybody in here.
I wouldn't. I think
21 and above?
21 and above.
21 and above.
I agree. I think it's definitely influencing people before they're ready. Like they've done studies where it was before we weren't exposed to the whole world. And so you weren't looking at yourself as much, you weren't obsessed with yourself as much, so you weren't as hypercritical of yourself, your lifestyle, your surroundings. Now you feel like you're failing just by logging onto a phone because you haven't got the body, the lifestyle, you're not on holiday. So I do think like until you're a legal adult that can do things, you shouldn't be exposed to that much. You should be allowed, your brain should be allowed to develop, which it doesn't even complete until 25. So how are you already being, like curating your environment is what we've spoken about today. And that is such a big part of a child's environment, a teenager's environment, than a young adult. So I definitely agree.
Yeah?
I don't like to think that it should,
Yeah.
but for all the reasons that we have said, probably.
Yeah.
But I like to think that in an ideal world,
Yeah.
with parents that are mindful, present, and do a very good job of, you know, growing up their kids
Yeah.
to understand what they see in social media and how they see themselves, then we shouldn't need to have that restriction.
True. Yeah.
But we don't live in an ideal world.
No.
So that's a very good question, and one that I don't necessarily have an answer.
Yeah, no, and I don't think there's ever actually going to be an answer because I think that there's so much stuff out there, but it's something I wanted to touch on because it's something I do want to have the next episode on. And my final question, so me and my best friend, we always have this, we don't argue, we don't have anything, we just have a debate. And I have to ask this question, it's very important to me. Pineapple on pizza or not? Nadia? think very carefully to what you decide.
Hey, controversial opinion.
Pineapple on pizza or not?
If it has jalapenos.
Okay, Nazi, that's not the answer I was looking for. Sima.
No, absolutely no pineapple on pizza.
Okay.
You have put me in a tough spot
No,
because
Maite,
I am
pineapple
Italian and I do like pineapple on pizza, but that's
Anyway, Maite won't be next week for the show. No, I'm joking. Audience, pineapple on pizza or no?
No.
See, this is the audience I need every single time. But honestly, guys, thank you so much. Like, thank you. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to come here and to speak about things. It's like you said, and just to finish off on what you said, that when you go and do a hypnotherapy session, and it's thank you for enlightening me because I actually didn't know that, is they don't make you relive the trauma. That is something that's blown me away and something I am going to research in, because a lot of people say, no, but you need to relive it to understand it. But, and also I want to tell all our viewers that if you've got more questions or anything like that, please, email them through. Everything's going to be on the video at the end anyway. So please email all your questions through. If you want to see our speakers again or anything like that, please do. You don't really have a choice if you want to see me again, because I'm going to be there anyway. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you.